Uh, Good afternoon, students. Welcome again for the first lesson of us. And today we are going to discuss on verbs. So today we are going to look at many aspects, but all circling around a verb. So verbs are essential part of speech, along with nouns, adjectives, adverbs, pronouns, prepositions, and conjunctions, that some we have discussed and some we are yet to discuss. In this discussion, we will delve into the intricacies of verbs, exploring their various forms, functions, and importance in communication. And the first one, we are going to start with the definition. Before you explain anything, before you give an example of anything, you must be aware of what it is. Now, definition of verb. Verb are words that express actions or actions, rather, occurrences or states. They are versatile and dynamic, enabling us to convey a wide range of meaning in a sentence. A verb is typically the central element of a predicate, which provides information about the subject of a sentence. Verbs can be classified into various categories based on their functions and characteristics. And students, after knowing the meaning of verb, I think you can be in a position to name or to give me the types of noun. On the chat box, I will be expecting you students each to participate. And what I want you to do is you write some of the example of words that expresses the emotion, the actions, occurrences, or states. And I continue with the types of verbs. On types of verbs, we have the following. One, we have action verbs. Action verbs, these are verbs that describe the physical or mental actions. For example, run, think, jump, eat. All are action or action verbs. We also have the linking verbs. And linking verbs connect the subject of a sentence to a subject complement, often describing the state of condition. Common linking verbs include is, are, was, and become. So is, are, was, they are also verbs, but categorized under linking verbs. They can't perform the same way as action verbs. And you also have auxiliary verbs or helping verbs. Auxiliary verbs are used in combination with the main verbs to form a verb phrase, express tenses, or indicate mood. Example, will. Will is an example of an auxiliary verb. Is an example of auxiliary verb that is used to show the modality. And you also have will, we also have can, we also have, and you also have is. Next, we're going to look at the modal verbs, and modal verbs express necessity, possibility, and permission or obligation. Common modal verbs include must, can, may, shall, could. We are on the last, we are going to have past tense. Sorry for the confusion. So we shall continue with the example of verbs, and we are going to have the transitive and intransitive verbs. And the transitive verbs, these are verbs that require a direct object to complete their meaning. For instance, the sentence, she read a book. Now read requires a direct object to be given to complete the meaning of a sentence. And on the other side, the intransitive verbs, these are verbs that do not require a direct object to make a sentence. For example, he sleeps. He sleeps is a complete phrase to a sentence that means the person sleeps, but doesn't also, but now the verb sleep doesn't necessarily need a direct object. For example, that will answer the question on which thing or to whom does the he sleeps on. So that gives us a difference from the transitive verb above. She read a book, whereby read takes a direct object of the term of the object book. And we also have the regular verbs, and regular verbs follow a predictable pattern when conjugated in different tenses, and they typically add ed on the base form of the past tense. Irregular verbs, these are verbs that do not follow standard conjugation, the rules and unique form in different tenses. For example, go becomes went and not God. So go is went. Come can also be used here because it will change to came, past tense. But on the regular verbs, you can have examples like play, of which it on the other tense or the past tense is played. Jump, jumped. So those are examples of regular verbs, and the regular verbs, some of the examples as go and come respectively. We also have conjugation verbs, and conjugation verb is the process of changing verbs form to match the subject and express the tense. Verb conjugation varies across the different language, but in English, it involves changes in form of different subjects and tenses. For regular verbs, conjugation often follows a predictable pattern. For example, present tense, I eat, you eat, he or she eats, we eat, they eat. That is the present tense, I ate. But the past tense is I ate. You ate, we ate, they ate. The regular verbs, on the other hand, have unique forms for past tenses and past participle. For instance, the irregular verb drive has the past tense form of drove. Tenses and verbs forms, and our next aspect. And verb tenses are used to indicate when an action occurred. In English, there are several tenses, including present tense, describe the actions happening now or general truth. Example, she walks to school. That is a present tense. Past tense indicates the actions that occurred in the past. For example, they visited the museum yesterday. Future tense predicts actions that will occur in the future. Example, I will finish my work by tomorrow. Present continuous tense describes the action in progress at the moment. For example, she is singing a song. Past continuous tense depicts the actions that were going in the past. Example, they were studying all night. Future continuous tense specifies actions that will be ongoing in the future. Example, I will be working on the project tomorrow. We also have the other aspect, which is number 5, that is aspect and mood. Verbs also convey moods and aspects, adding a noun to the action or event described in a sentence. Mood refers to the speaker's attitude towards the action, while aspect focuses on the duration or competentness of the action. So to indicate mood, indicative mood will have, these are used to state facts, opinions, or questions. Example, she is happy. Happy is an indicative mood indicating the state of the person described, of here is a she. We also have an imperative mood, gives a command or makes a request. For example, please pass the salt. Please pass the salt. So here is used to indicate the imperative mood. Subjunctive mood expresses hypothetical or unreal situations. Example, if I were you, I would go. So here the hypothetical or unreal situation is, you cannot be the person or the other person, because that is impossible in the human nature. Perfect aspect indicates actions that have completed or have connected to the present. Example, he has finished his work. Progressive aspect describe the actions in progress or development. Example, she is reading a book. She is reading a book. Progressive aspect. And next we shall look at voice. Verb voices refers to the relationship between the subject and the action of the verb. There are two primary voices in English: active voice and passive voice. In active voice sentences, the subject performs the action. Example, she wrote a letter. She wrote a letter. The subject, she did an action, and the action here is the writing of a letter. Therefore, she wrote a letter. This sentence is in active voice. We also have a passive voice. In passive voice, the subject receives the action. The subject receives the action. Example, the letter was written by her. The letter was written by her. So, what is this thing that is receiving the action? The subject, her. The subject receives the action, and here the subject, her, receives the action on which the letter was written to, was written by. So the letter was written by her. We also have the phrasal verbs. And phrasal verbs, these are verbs that are a combination of verbs and particles. That's usually prepositions or adverbs. that create a unique meaning. Phrasal verbs can be challenging for learners of English due to their idiomatic nature. Example include give up, which means to quit, run into, to unexpectedly meet someone, take off, to remove clothing or a plane departing. We also have the importance of verbs, and verbs are essential for effective communication that provide the necessary action context and temporal information in sentence. Without verbs, language would lack the dynamism required to convey thoughts, emotions, and events. Verbs help us to express past actions, discuss current situations, and make plans for the future. They also enable us to form complex sentences, express opinions, and create vivid description. Under verb agreement, verb must agree with their subject in terms of number and person. This means that the form of the verb changes depending on whether the subject is singular or plural and whether it refers to the first person, second person, or third person. For example, singular, she walks to school. She walks to school. Walks is the verb. But in the plural now, you will remove the S on walk. On walks, they remain walk so that it becomes they walk to school. Therefore, you cannot say in plural that they walks to school. Then we also have verb usage tips. You must be mindful of tense, consistency when narrating stories or presenting information, switching between past and present tense can confuse readers. So you must use an appropriate verb forms in formal and academic writing, such as avoiding constructions, e.g., can't instead of cannot. When using the subjunctive mode, pay attention to verbs like be and have, which have a unique form. And we also have the common verb errors, subject verb agreement errors, failing to match the verb form with the subject, number, and person, e.g., she have instead of she has. And by that, students, that also marks the end of our lesson also. And I expect to meet you the next class, the same time. Thank you.